extremely unwilling to spend some of their wealth to help the old.
Still alive, but barely living. The residents of Moscow's biggest state home for the elderly. The demoralized and badly paid staff are overworked. The patients' cries for help often go unanswered. The home is desperately short of funds. Incontinent patients are left to lie in their own urine and excrement. Their beds are changed only when there's time. Items considered standard in the West, like disposable pads or sheets, are an impossible luxury.
We
get some medicines, but only those needed to treat chronic diseases. We don't have any preventative medicines or vitamins or even bandages, which our patients urgently need. I have a budget of £15,000 a year. I need 10 times that amount.
Many of these old people have effectively been abandoned by the state, which refuses to pay for more than the most rudimentary care, and by their families. Some relatives don't even come to bury them when they die. The staff have formed a foundation to try to raise money from companies or individuals, but none has been forthcoming. There is money in Russia. Some people have become very rich very fast, but most don't want to share it. Giving to charity is practically unheard of. The International Red Cross is currently running an emergency winter appeal for Russia's poor.
The Red Cross is very often the only assistance available to the most vulnerable.
For the first time, it's asked better-off Russians to help people like this, but the total raised so far across the whole of Russia is less than £3,000.
The present process in Russia is characterized by selfishness and even greed. And in that kind of a climate, a good cause and needy compatriots is not exactly high on the priority list.
Staff at the old people's home face a daily battle to feed their patients on limited funds. The Russian government says an economic revival is underway, but these elderly people, lost in a fog of deprivation, can see no sign of it. Diana Goodman, BBC News, Moscow.
For China, 1997 was a momentous year of...
You know me. I'm your waitress.
I brought your coffee.
Remember the drinks? Can we ask you something? 8 hours in here. It's like smoking almost a pack. More of us die of lung cancer and heart disease than in any other woman's job.
In a high-profile television campaign, health officials in California have been driving home their message about the dangers of secondhand smoke.
It's about health, and it's about time.
Restaurants with designated smoking areas, bars and taverns, private clubs serving food or alcohol, and casinos were all seen as last refuges for smokers. Not anymore from January the 1st in California, and the state's smoke-free workplace law takes effect. Nowhere else in America has the right to light up in public been challenged so vigorously. No other state has a similar law on its books.
This was one of the most important public health efforts that could be made to save lives. The fact that somebody who needs a job to support themselves and their family is put into a position of choosing between their livelihood and their health is a terrible and involuntary predicament to be put into.
Here at Dublin's bar in Los Angeles, it's estimated 80% of the regular patrons smoke.
I don't smoke at home, I don't smoke at work, I don't smoke during the day. The first cigarette I have of the day is like the 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night type cigarette.
If I go to a bar and I want to smoke a cigarette, I'll leave if I'm not able to. And I know that most of the people that I'm acquainted with and are even friends of mine feel the same way.
However, studies conducted by the California Department of Health Services show that bars and restaurants where managers have already outlawed smoking haven't seen a marked drop in revenue. But the manager here at Dublin says that's only part of the issue.
To force people to not be able to smoke in a public venue where it is, you know, most enjoyed. Most people enjoy smoking when they have their drinks and their cigarettes. it's not right, and it's not American. To me, it's not American. You know, that's not the American way. We should be free to do what we want.
It'll be up to local health authorities across California to enforce the new law, with fines starting off at $100. California does tend to lead the nation when it comes to innovative social policies, and it's highly likely that if the new workplace smoking law is successful here, then other states will follow. Clive Myrie, BBC News, Los Angeles.
In 1997, the South African president's former wife, Winnie Madikizela Mandela, testified before the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. She denied astonishing allegations against her, suggestions that she'd been involved in the murder of a teenager. The Truth Commission has provided answers to many questions about human rights abuses during the apartheid years. But in the case of Mrs. Mandela, there was a mass of contradictory evidence, and the hearing stopped well short of achieving genuine reconciliation. Peter Biles reports now on the difficulties of establishing the truth about the past.
South Africa has been christened the Rainbow Nation, the country where people of all colours can live together in peace. What's happened here over the last few years has certainly been miraculous. Nelson Mandela has presided over a remarkable, unprecedented period of change. But South Africa also has a violent and terrible past, still haunting all of us who lived here under apartheid. And no peace and reconciliation can ever be achieved until that past is confronted in an honest and open way. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission has been the forum for delving into the horrors of the past. The aim is not to punish and prosecute, it's simply to establish what happened in the hope that this will heal the wounds.
O God of justice, mercy and peace, we long to put behind us all the pain and division of apartheid, together with all the violence which ravaged our communities in its name.
Archbishop Desmond Tutu has chaired the commission, bringing a unique blend of passion, calm and understanding to the testimony he's heard.
For a guy to stand up and say, I killed, I killed, I killed, what does that do to him and to his family? If his family, for instance, hears for the first time, my daddy is a murderer. There's a cost there. And there is reparation. Reparation is not the same thing as compensation, but it is saying the nation acknowledges your story.
In 1988, Stompie Sepe, a 14-year-old activist, was abducted from a Methodist church mission in Soweto and later killed. The man convicted of the murder was the coach of the Mandela United Football Club, Winnie Mandela's personal vigilante gang. Winnie Madikizela Mandela's appearance at the Truth Commission last month was expected to shed new light on her role in the murky goings-on of the late 1980s. The truth was hard to find, but in the spirit of the commission, the man she'd accused in the past of abusing the children in his care pleaded for reconciliation.
I long for our reconciliation. I struggle to find a way in which we can be reconciled for the sake of this nation and for the people that I believe God loves so deeply.
He was sharing publicly with her what I think he truly carries in his heart. And I frankly am very saddened that she could not find it within her to respond to that outstretched hand.
The unexpected presence at the Truth Commission hearings of this group of former ANC soldiers supporting Winnie Mandela raised fears that witnesses were being intimidated. Mrs. Mandela's lawyer gave an assurance that they weren't, but the truth was still proving elusive. Mrs. Mandela faced a string of allegations that she'd been involved in murder, kidnapping and assault, and to the frustration of the lawyers cross-examining her, she denied everything. On this occasion, it seemed the Commission was failing in its task.
The truth in your hands is putty.
That is a preposterous statement. I beg of you not to talk to me like that.
No, wait a bit. Order, please.
Despite the appearance of a courtroom drama, no one has been on trial before South Africa's Truth Commission. What this is about is coming to terms with the pain of the past. But there was nevertheless surprise when Stompie Sepe's mother came forward to greet Winnie Madikizela Mandela in a gesture of reconciliation. Later, in conclusion, Archbishop Tutu appealed to Mrs. Mandela to show some remorse.
I beg you. I beg you. I beg you. Please. You are a great person. And you don't know how your greatness would be enhanced if you were to say, sorry, things went wrong, forgive me. I beg you.
Her response, when it came, acknowledged only what was asked of her and no more.
It is true. Things went horribly wrong. I fully agree with that. And for that part of those painful years when things went horribly wrong and we were aware of the fact that there were factors that led to that, for that I am deeply sorry.
When ANC members gathered here in Mafeking for their national conference in mid-December, the emphasis was not so much on reconciliation, which has been the watchword of Nelson Mandela's presidency, but on the social transformation of South African society. The ANC, under its new leader, Thabo Mbeki, is concerned that the white community has not done enough to reverse the inequalities of apartheid. The blunt message is that reconciliation and transformation must go hand in hand, and the whites have got to play a much more positive role in the new South Africa. Stepping down as party leader, Nelson Mandela told the ANC conference that elements of the old apartheid regime were trying to destabilize the country. He attacked the former ruling establishment for refusing to cooperate with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. ANC leaders believe that no one should be exempt from being questioned about the past.
We had hoped that everybody would go to the Truth Commission and let this truth be told. Let's account for everybody who was killed. Let's account for everybody who disappeared. Because if that doesn't happen, then the state security organs must continue their investigations. And if indeed they find that any particular person was responsible for what would then be a criminal act, then they'd get charged.
The ANC wants to avoid such confrontation. It goes against what the Truth and Reconciliation Commission stands for. The process is by no means perfect, and it's as much about the future as it is about the past. Nelson Mandela says ordinary South Africans are determined that the past be known so as to ensure that it is not repeated.
And that report from Peter Biles ends this edition of Reporters for another week. From me, Peter Coey, goodbye.